Hi, good evening. I am Allison Schaefer, parenting expert and family counselor, and welcome to the fifth in a series of our Facebook Lives called #FamilyTalk. We actually are going to start at the top of the hour, but I always like to jump in here early to welcome you and make sure that when you arrive, there's someone to say hi to and to let you know a little bit about how we're going to spend this next bit of time. I think tonight's going to be a pretty big evening because we're talking about back to school and all the stresses and anxieties that has brought for parents and kids alike. And so I want to make sure that I give lots of time for us to get to your questions and answers. Anyone who posts a question or a comment for me, your name is going to be put into a draw for a $250 Visa gift card. And it is an opportunity for discussion and camaraderie. So I'd love to know where you're watching from. What is your stress point? What is the big thing in your area, in your family? Are you worried about hybrid learning? Have you heard from the school boards yet? How are your kids sleeping? Are they sleeping at all? Are you starting to adjust your family clock? I'd love to know, how old are your kids? Where are you watching from? What's your pain point? What's your stressor in your particular area? As we start to get people on board and get ready for our topic. If you are here for the first time, welcome. If you're returning, you know a little bit about how these events go. I am going to have a formal discussion about some important points that are going to help us with anxiety. The whole point of our #FamilyTalk program is to empower parents and give them the knowledge, the confidence, and the skills that they need to raise terrific teens. And don't we all want that? But in this particular program, the information is not only on how to raise great teens, but to reduce underage drinking. And so we're trying to help parents be the change agent for that social movement, or that public health movement. And of course, all the tips, whether your kids are teens or tweens, and whether you're just embarking into the teen years and want to make sure that you've got a foot up on making sure that you're parenting in a way that has the best outcomes for your kids, this program has tons of information for you. And we've got lots of archived #FamilyTalk videos that you can also go back and watch. You don't have to watch them in order. You can watch them with your partner, you can watch them with your kids, but they're all on my YouTube channel if you want to go check those out. There's lots of resources. But we're live tonight, and so I'd love to see who's here. Please take advantage of the comment field to post questions to me. We'll have a Q&A at the end, and one lucky winner, your name will be drawn for a $250 Visa gift card. And as well, after my presentation and our talk tonight, I have a short survey about the content and to see if I'm being helpful and effective to you. And as a favor to me, if you could just do that quick survey, just a few short questions, and to thank you for your time, there's a $5 Starbucks gift card for the first 200 people that jump on and reply to that survey. So I would super appreciate that if you would do that as well. So I think we probably have enough people on here that we can get going on our talk tonight. So again, my name is Allison Schaefer. I'm a family counselor and a parenting expert, and the host of the #FamilyTalk series. We've been doing this for 5 years. We didn't know that COVID was going to come, and every year we've done something on back to school because it's always a stressful time. Little did we know that back to school was going to be this kind of stressful time. Oh man, it's always with a mixture of emotions. I think there's always that sort of, yay, I haven't seen my friends all summer. I want to get back to school. I'm getting bored now. I've been hanging out too long. And then there's also a little bit of the trepidation. You know, I don't know who my teachers are. I don't know if I'm going to get into a friend group. It was always a mixture of anticipation, excitement, and a little bit of anxiety. And now with this whole other overlay of the pandemic, I think it's fair to say that all of us are quite stressed. And rightfully so. So I want to just normalize that for you. And then let's talk about how we can address that. I want to give you some really pragmatic help and tips and advice on how to manage that. One thing I can say is that the human body and our minds are designed biologically to handle acute stress. Something bad happens, we respond to it, and we recover. That unfortunately is not going to be the case when we have been told that we're facing a worldwide pandemic with a vaccine that is not going to be probably out and distributed, and the time it takes for the economy to rebound. We're in this for quite a while longer. And that means for all of us, chronic stress, which really can play havoc with our health and our mental health, but also our physical health, is something that every one of us needs to address. I'm concerned about the teens particularly because the teen years is also when there's unique stressors for them. And that's because they're going through puberty. They're getting their self-identity. They're suddenly having sexual changes and sexual interests. And they're more concerned about peer acceptance. They're more worried about their future. And actually, are they making their academic marks that they want for their future endeavors? So the stressors are really high in the teen years, but they don't have very much life experience. You know, they're 12, 14, 16 years old. They don't have a lot of help in terms of how to cope with stressors. And so I think they're particularly a vulnerable group who we really need to pay attention to and help. And we saw this, and I mentioned this earlier, Kids Help Phone, which is a wonderful resource for kids. And I hope all of you have their number posted. They now do 24/7 texting, so it's anonymous. The kids can reach out anytime. But at the beginning of this pandemic, they had a 350% increase in the number of teens that had reached out to them. So this is really a concern about the help that we need to provide. And as parents, we want to be there for our kids and help them navigate this time. How do we keep that stress down? Because here they are, puberty, back to school, pandemic, all these stressors, not having the coping skills, and it's exactly the same time that alcohol starts to show up on the scene. No doubt your children are going to do some experimentation. I think we have to prepare for that. I think we're naive if we don't think that alcohol is going to show up and our kids are going to try it. So we need to be prepared to have that conversation with our kids that yes, in fact, when they drink alcohol, they're probably going to experience a sedation, that it will make their current anxiety levels come down. It depresses the activation of the central nervous system. And so if our kids start to realize, oh, I was really stressed, but somebody brought alcohol to that party or to the schoolyard, and now suddenly I'm feeling better, I might decide to do that again because this is starting to look like a solution to my anxiety, to my jangled nerves. And that experience, true, biologically true, but it is a short-term solution. It is not a good long-term way for dealing with stress, and it comes with all kinds of other negative consequences. So again, we need to review that to our kids, that in fact, what's happening to the brain in the teenage years is it's incredibly vulnerable to the environment. And when you add alcohol, this actually impacts its development and its structures, that it leads to poor decision making. It leads to bad problem solving. When we're impaired, we tend to get into accidents. We end up saying things that we regret. We end up having a lot of shame and embarrassment. So there's a lot of negative consequences that really are not solving what the underlying problem is. And wouldn't it be better, rather than constantly relying on alcohol, to be able to say, hey, stress is an issue for you in your life right now. Let's help you adult into the skill sets that you need that will serve you for an entire lifetime. That's a better place to put our energies. So with that in mind, let me tell you about some of the things. And again, please, I hope you're typing in and letting me know what's your stressor, whether it's yours or your tweens or teens. What is the big burning point for them? Because it's different for different kids, and we can't presume to think that everything that is making our kids anxious right now is actually just the virus. That a lot of kids that I've talked to have said things like, I don't want to wear a mask all day. I don't know if I can stand it. Other people are worried about academic performance, and am I going to get as good a grades if I go back to school as I was getting when I was doing it online in the spring? I kind of want to be with my friends, but I was actually kind of rocking the online world, and this is grade 11 and I need good marks, so I'm torn on what to do. So don't assume you know what your kids' stresses are. But I will tell you, from my 20 years of working with families and working with teenagers, I want to tell you some of the stressors that maybe if they haven't opened up, but I see repeatedly in my office that I think parents need to know about. And that, first of all, is that you actually are so important to them, whether you believe it or not, that what we have seen is that when our kids are trying to manage this difficult time in their life, navigating all the changes, finding their identity, it really helps for them to have a good home life. They really do need you, even though I know it feels like, oh, peers are everything and they're hanging out in their room on their own. A strong relationship with a parent is a protective factor for so many things. Or put the other way, having poor relationships within your family is an incredible stressor to teens that leads to all kinds of poor decision making. So I know that teens feel like they're hard to reach, but it's a time to invest in that relationship. Don't let them drift away. Find that commonality of something that you like to do. I didn't think I was all that big into cards, but suddenly cards became the thing this summer. So I now know a lot of card games that I did not know, but that's fine. I'm happy to meet them where they're at, what's engaging for them, because that's worth it to me to kind of meet them in the kinds of things that they're excited in doing. So keep an interest and see them for who they really are. A lot of parents just, they're like, I know my mom and dad and things are fine, it's not bad, but they don't kind of know me. Kids kind of feel invisible, like they're, so really see your kids, to really have that genuine connection with them. So I think that's important. The second thing is parents don't realize, they'll say, oh yeah, I love my kid, but they have no idea how much in that loving, they're also making it quite based on this quiet little message that says, you will be okay in my eyes if you do well at school. And I know you don't mean to be sending that message, but there are incredible expectations, high standards, especially for academics, that are almost paralyzing to teens. And we are going back into a school year where it is nothing like before. We really don't know where people were at. And parents are worried. Their biggest anxiety is, my kid's going to fall behind. So now, this year, you are so much more likely to feel freaked out about academic performance. This is probably one of the first years where I would say, you know what, they finally got rid of the idea of a standardized anything. Now everything is individualized. I think this is excellent. Let's stop with the measuring rod and the rulers here. Let's just have, I'm going to call it COVID compassion. We all need to have COVID compassion in that everyone is going to try to do their best. We will figure it out. And what you've decided in terms of your education, whether that's the online, the hybrid, whatever you decided for your family, it can change. It can change because you decide it's not working, or your team decides that it's not working and you need to shake it up. It might change because the school says, I'm sorry, we've had an outbreak and people need to go home for so many days, whatever it might be. We all have to be flexible. We all have to understand that this is going to be an iterative process of figuring things out. So let's join with our kids as an alliance and say, I got your back, I'll help you, we'll work on this together. We will get the formula that works for you, and to have faith in them to manage their education, that we love them regardless of how the marks are going to pan out this year. So many kids think that they are letting their parent down and not living up to expectation, and that stress is going to need an outlet, and I don't want that outlet to be the easy swig of alcohol. So let's deal with the source of the stress, and those are two places that parents can really be a help. I also think we have to deal with how we're going to manage our own stress. How are you doing with the stress of all of this? Are you consciously modeling to your kids how we deal with stress? If you're on social media, again, just pay attention. How many funny little memes have you gotten about mommy's wine or COVID wine? And we joke, but it's very much part of that culture that alcohol relaxes us. And again, in the long run, it might do that immediately. That's not a good solution to be going to a substance instead of curing our problems. So if we're getting it in our adult world, what are the kids seeing in their social media world? They're on there more. So we want to model good ways of managing our stress. The exercise, the meditation, the getting a good night's sleep, the eating healthy, the 10 deep breaths. Actually, that felt good just doing that right there. Let's all do one together. I was kind of racing there. I was getting excited, wasn't I? All my great tips. We're all getting a little wound. So we need to also help model to our kids what that calmness looks like. And you really do set the tone for the family. I'm sure you've heard this from other sources around COVID. That part of why the kids are anxious is, we said in the beginning, oh, there is this virus, you need to stay home, don't see anyone, don't touch anyone. And now there's still a virus and we're saying, oh, but go out, go back to school. It seems kind of contradictory. We need to be able to show them, listen, we got this thing. We would not be sending you out there if we did not think this was safe. You've got to have that calm confidence in order to pass on that feeling of confidence to your kids. It's like being the pilot on a plane and you're going through turbulence. You want the pilot to come on with great authority and say, we are just experiencing some temporary turbulence. Everything will be fine in 3 minutes. If they get on, they're like, I don't know what's going on. It seems to be some strange storm. Everyone on the plane is going to freak out. You are the pilot of your family's life, and you need to be calm and relaxed. And I remember as a kid, I would fall asleep and I'd be or in my bed, a little nervous in the dark and ghosts and boogeyman and whatever. And then I'd hear my dad snoring, like deep snoring. And I loved that because I'm like, well, he's like the protector of the house. If my dad is like sleeping and all relaxed, what can there be for me to be relaxed about? And so think about that. When your kids come home, are they seeing parents who are rushed and busy and tense and snippy? Or are they seeing parents who are laughing and hugging and relaxed? That's going to be the safe haven, calm place for them to decompress and to know there's a place away from stress where they can come and discharge some of that stress as well. So we really have to take that seriously for ourselves. The other thing that ends up kind of creating stress in the family that we as parents can control is we can start thinking about how much of our interactions with our kids are really rather negative, right? Most of the time, the reason why our kids are going off, those teens, why are they going to their bedrooms? Yeah, sure, some of it is because they want independence and they want, to have a bit of privacy and be on their social media. But a lot of times it's because every time they're with you, you're on them. Have you done your homework? Have you hung your coat up? Did you get that form done? A lot of the interactions with our kids when they get to that age is a lot of this, riding them, micromanaging them, and they just get sick of it. So they just avoid us. I recommend that if you want to stop having that pattern in your home and you want to get to that de-stressed, low anxious home state, have a family meeting on a regular basis. I'm not going to give you all the details. You can Google family meetings, but here's the idea. You can either talk every week about the dishes and the homework and when you're going to bed and all that stuff, and you basically fight about the same problems over and over and over and over again. If you have family meetings and you look at it, how are we going to manage going back to school? What does our schedule look like? What do we need to do about distributing chores? What are we going to do about accountability for homework? Whatever those issues might be. The dishwasher. I don't know what your family fights about, but if you put these on the agenda for a family meeting, you solve them once, and then you're not arguing about them again and again and again and again and again. So they're so powerful. Parents, seem to not want to tackle these, but I'm telling you, the investment that you put into solving problems at a family meeting, rather riding your kids, can be a sea change in the stress level in your family. And of course, take a parenting class. If you're having issues, take a parenting class. I promise you, they are sanity saving. They'll be great for your anxiety. They'll be great for your kids' anxiety. Okay, so I know that we've got a lot of teens that are also, are young adults actually. This may be for many parents the first year that their kids have gone off to campus. Many people have put their kids in residence, even though they're not actually with a roommate and they're still doing online learning. But you may have some kids that are flying out and on their own. And, again, how are we going to make sure that our kids are doing okay out there? They're not going to have the same typical first year where the universities used to be and I think they'll still try very hard. They're still going to try to have online orientations. And I know that they've substituted Frosh Week with online activities like scavenger hunts and talent shows and, some fun things like that. But likely somebody is going to sneak around and say the tradition lives on. We're going to have that Frosh Week party. So I think we do need to talk to our kids about how they can stick handle those tricky situations and give them those ways, how to say no, how to pick a good group of friends where that's not going to feel like pressure. And talk to them quite specifically about what makes that a problem for them. Is it about fitting in? Because if it's about fitting in, alcohol isn't really something that makes you fit in. You should not be feeling like you have to behave in any different way in order to assure your friend group. That's really about confidence, right? If you think it's a social lubricant, we can talk about that too. The truth is, when you drink and your inhibitions come down, what ends up happening is those inhibitions actually serve you. They stop you from saying stupid things. They stop you from waking up the next morning going, what did I say to that girl? Did I get her phone number? We don't want to have the regrets and the remorse that the lack of inhibition does. If you want to learn how to have a better social lubricant, let's make some skills for how will I start a conversation? How, what questions could I engage so that I can meet more people and be more social? And get up my social courage by planning some of those, introductory lines or icebreaker lines. You don't need to have alcohol to do that. So We need to give our kids those skills and how to navigate, and let them know that we're there for them. Even though they're away at campus, they miss you. Text them, say hi, check in. I used to have a thing with my daughter called the weight of the world. What's your weight of the world index? It's like, are you carrying a load? And kids don't always come forward and say it's a lot of pressure. Sometimes we really just have to directly ask the question. And if they don't want to talk to us, that's okay, so long as they talk to somebody. Most university campuses have a student center with resources. I've mentioned Kids Help Phone. Maybe there's an aunt or a coach or something, but get your child to identify it. Who will you talk to when things are really tense? But they need to know, I got your back, I'm here for you. There is no problem so great we can't solve it alone. A lot of kids go off to college, first year university, they feel lonely, they feel isolated, they feel too far away from home, and they can drop out simply because they didn't feel that sense of connection. So we're going to need that more this year than ever for that group of kids. And then finally, before we get to questions here, I want you to know that there are many things that we can do, and we'll talk about more about what just the average Joe parent and the average Joe teen can do to bring down their anxiety. But there are people who really have an anxiety disorder, would meet a criteria for that, and it's really impeding their functioning, and they probably do need help with a professional, and you can make appointments. So we have very good success rates around that, because we can target not just like managing your central nervous system, but we really can get at that sort of stinky thinking. There might be kids who think like, I can never make friends, or I must be perfect, or I can't make a mistake, or nobody likes me. These are the thinkings that need to be challenged. And I would say that a lot of that goes above and beyond what I would expect a parent to know how to do. But I would say that if you have an anxious child, you need to be an expert in anxiety yourself. Just like if you had a child with type 1 diabetes, you need to know something about diabetes. So the way that I would go about explaining it to your kids and working with it is to say that everyone has anxiety. It's one of our core emotions, and you don't want it to go away, really, because it serves as like a warning signal to keep you safe. It is like having a smoke detector in the house. If you're making cookies and the smoke detector goes off and you get the little tea towel out and you're like, it's okay, there's no fire, we're just making cookies. You don't want to take the batteries out of the smoke detector. What if there really is a fire? What we do need to know is that we have a set point that says that in our particular biology, we see things as a threat. So they might think going back to school and not knowing if my friends are in my class and that I might be missing out, that might be their idea of a threat, setting off their smoke detector. Or whether they're concerned about the germs, then that's setting off their smoke detector. But once they understand that that's really their body trying to keep them safe, the way that we work with it is how do we manage the anxiety rather than eliminating it? And that's the part where we can say, befriend it instead of fight it. So you can say, when that smoke detector goes off and the alarm goes and they don't want to go into the building, oh, that's my little that's my thing that's trying to keep me, thank you, you're my friend, it's good, I'm fine, I got it. And then maybe they go into some mantra, I am safe, they wouldn't send me to school if I wasn't safe, this is why I wear a mask, this is why I have my gloves, my mind is still making sure I'm safe, but you know what? Couple of deep breaths, and what you'll find is that you will actually sort of surf the wave of the anxiety, and it metabolizes if you don't fight it. It'll have a beginning, a middle, and the end, and you go, oh, that was sort of just like a feeling. And it's not so frightening. You didn't die. The worst thing didn't happen. It's like, whoa, there's my heart rate going up, there's my fingers tingling, and you know what? Okay, that came back down. And the more we give ourselves little exposures like that, the more our kids can actually start to work with those deep breaths and those mantras and some of the other skills that you can learn at counseling, or there's a great website, kidsevolve.ca, that has got great mindfulness meditations. But kids get better at these skills. And again, can you imagine? I only started mindfulness meditation in my 40s. Can I imagine if I would have started at my teen years? It's so brilliant. So I think we have to talk to them about that. And then the last thing, we will go to questions, is we have to stop treating our anxious kids like they're fragile. That anxiety is, yes, genetic, partly, but it's also learned. Because what ends up happening is we start buying into the fact that they're fragile, and we don't do that little stress inoculation that allows them to build up that mental muscle to say that I can manage this. And so we protect them from life, and they don't get to grow that kind of grit and those skill set. Sending that message, you'll manage, I have faith in you, you'll do great, you're being brave at handling all this, whatever it is. I'm talking in a sing-songy voice like you have a little kid, but I know you have a teenager, you can talk like this. But they'll be fine. They need to hear your vote of confidence, that you believe in them. You're holding that hope and that faith for them. That's the message that they need to hear. And when you've got a kid that can manage their anxiety, you're far less likely for them to be turning to alcohol and other quick fixes. They need to get at the root of their problem, and you're a big part in having that opportunity to both model and educate and ask them specifically, what is the challenges that you're facing? Talk to me about the challenges, because together we can figure out problems. They're not alone with their problems. And any problem tackled together, a shared problem, is a solvable problem, and they need to know that. So before I wrap up, I just want you to know, anyone who's posted a question, which we're going to get to, has a chance to win a $250 a $250 Visa gift card. There is a survey link that we're going to put up. Please do me the kind favor of just spending a few minutes and filling that out for me. At the end, there is a $5 Starbucks gift card as a thank you for that. And if this has been a good opportunity for you to learn about teens, please come over to my Facebook page where I have a teen group just for parents of teens. It's a positive, supportive environment, and I jump on with resources, and everyone cross mentors and is supportive, and I check in there regularly. So you can continue on that way. And of course, we'll still have another Facebook hashtag family talk event in another week or so. So stay tuned for that. So thank you very much. I hope this has been a helpful evening. Happy back to school.